Okay? Well, why would we want that? Digestion is good, right? But it's not going to save you against the bear. Your stomach acid is not gonna, unless you throw up on the bear, but really for the most part that digestive process isn't gonna help. So let's put those processes on the back burner and focus on saving our life with the bear. So that's what drives this whole system. Sexuality. Well, sexual function or erections or ovulation, they're not going to do much for the bear. Right. we assume, right? So they're going to be turned off. They're going to be a lower priority while we have a stress response. Reproductive hormones. The female is not going to say that, well, you know, grizzly bear's here. I don't think I want to reproduce right now. So the body has it figured out. Growth and healing is not a priority, and extremity temperature goes down, so your hands get cold. Well, that's just kind of a byproduct of vasoconstriction. When you raise blood pressure and you constrict blood vessels, the fingers, the skin in the fingers, that's just not a high priority. Warm skin isn't going to do much for you, so that blood is needed elsewhere. And so all these things that happen, they're a direct, immediate result of the stress response. So let's go back up and look at health issues. High blood pressure, well, we got that one accounted for. That's pretty plain. High cholesterol, we've got that one accounted for. Raynaud's syndrome, cold hands and fingers, yeah? Neck pain, not so totally obvious, except that when we have a stress response, we increase muscle tension because we want to, that increases our readiness and our alertness so we can get out of there quickly. So, but if we have that neck, if we have those muscles tense for a long time, when there's no bear around, well, we're probably going to get some neck pain and quite possibly some headaches as well. Diabetes, we covered that because the cortisol will increase blood sugar, glucose, and it will increase your insulin resistance. It will decrease your sensitivity to insulin, which is the first step toward diabetes. Constipation, okay? We sell all these laxatives, and constipation just says, well, you know, I'm not going to expend energy moving my gut when there's a grizzly bear. Blood clots, well, that comes from the blood clotting factor. Your blood is a little bit thicker than it should be, so that you could stop bleeding if you had an emergency. Obesity, this is a separate seminar altogether, but just real quick, that the obesity comes from when the cortisol raises your blood sugar because your body thinks there's a fight here, I'm going to have to expend energy. So you raise the blood sugar, but if there is no actual fight, if there's no actual grizzly bear but only a perceived danger, then that blood sugar is going to get converted into storage, and the only thing we can store in any large amount, is fat. So if we constantly have a lot of cortisol, then a lot of that blood sugar is just going to turn right around to fat. Okay, that's why people get bloated and overweight when they're on what's it called, corticosteroids for any length of time. Infertility, we got that one accounted for. Miscarriages, we got that one accounted for. Erectile dysfunction, digestive problems, ulcers. Let's talk about ulcers just a little bit. Do you know what actually causes ulcers?
The bacteria?
Exactly. For the longest time, they just looked at the stomach and they said, well, it hurts when I have more stomach acid, so the stomach acid must be the problem. and therefore ulcers are caused by stomach acid. Then this guy came around and found that it was actual bacterium, that it lives in your gut, and if there is an overgrowth of this bacterium, it eats away at the lining of the stomach and you get an ulcer. But this bacterium is very sensitive to acid. So the ulcer is not caused by too much acid, it is caused by not enough acid. So when you have a functional system, when you have your parasympathetics and your digestion functions, you make more stomach acid that keeps this bacterium under control, and you don't develop ulcers and they heal up. The problem is that they look at it the wrong way, so they say, well, it's the stomach acid hurts, so we'll give you something to reduce the stomach acid even further. So they're making the problem even worse. Well, now you don't have the pain from the ulcer, but you can't digest food. Your ulcer doesn't necessarily heal, you just don't have the pain, but now you're getting all sorts of problems down the road because you're not absorbing nutrients from your food. Allergies, they have to do with an imbalanced immune system. That's a separate, takes a little bit long to go into. And autoimmune diseases, rheumatoid arthritis, and cancer. These are all immune system functions. Okay? What happens when you have a stress response? You shut down your parasympathetic response, right? Your parasympathetics is what runs your immune system. So anytime that you have a stress response, you shut down your immune system. How many students get sick around finals time? Do you have an increase of colds and flus?
Yes.
Okay, right there. You have all this evidence right in front of you, and all you have to understand is what the sympathetics and the parasympathetics do in your body. It accounts for everything that happens. Okay? So all of these drugs would be unnecessary if people learn to balance their sympathetics and their parasympathetics. So now let's just look at the second half of number 9 there. We covered what happens initially, because when the grizzly bear is around, that's an appropriate response. That's an adaptive stress response. That's something we want to happen. But if this goes on for a long, long time, what happens then? And that's the problem, because your body only has one stress response. And it doesn't matter if it's a grizzly bear or if it's a pile of bills or rude people or gas prices or bad news on TV. Anything that makes you feel tense or uneasy or that puts you in defense, like you're trying to attack something, even if it's just imaginary, it will trigger the same exact stress response, but to a lesser degree. But whereas the bear eventually, he eats you or he goes home, these everyday stresses, they never go away. They're with you, you wake up with them, you add to them during your day, you go to bed with them, and you wake up the next day and they're